What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Anishar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It is Thursday. We are getting close to the weekend. Huge game for the Miami Hurricanes against NC State. Trying to go 1-0 and then go 3-0 and finish the season the way they want to finish it. We got Steve Kim in the building. We're talking to him, the legend, the Canes Almanac. You know who it is. A lot to get to in terms of recruiting. Logan Nagel committing to the Canes. We'll break down that commitment later on and really just get into it with where the team is and where the team is going. First, some folks, you know where they're going. That's Anishar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anishar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
D, good morning.
Morning, man. So what's new? What's going on? How you feeling?
Feeling great, man. Feeling phenomenal. I'm a big fan of the pickup from last night. I know we'll get into that a bit more in depth here in a bit, but yeah, man, feeling good. Feeling like I'm ready to go 3-0.
Can't go 3-0 without going 1-0, man. So you got to beat NC State. We'll talk about it here with Steve because this one is a game that has concerned me for a long, long time. Just the skill position talent, the coming off a bye. A lot of motivated players. We went through the strengths and weaknesses of NC State yesterday. We'll go through them more today and tomorrow. But, man, it's the type of game in the past we lose. So, hopefully, things have changed. And the person's going to let us know about what we did in the past, what we're doing now, and whether things have changed. And who knows better than anybody? That is the one and only Steve Kim. Steve, how we doing?
Morning, guys. How you doing?
Doing excellent, man. This game has scared me forever. I don't know why. It's just, I don't know if it's the CJ Bailey coming home factor. I still have PTSD from Mendoza and Drones last year, guys that had like a personal issue. Either they were, Drones was Ward's cousin, Mendoza wanted to be a Cane, all that stuff. And they had their games of their season against us. So I'm getting flashbacks here with CJ Bailey, skill position talent. I don't know what it is, but this one concerns me. Where are you at with this game and where we are at this point of the season?
Let's flash back. A couple of weeks ago, I'm in Dallas. I'm in the doldrums coming off that SMU loss. I'm in my hotel motel Quality Inn, and I'm watching the screen, and that game was actually the primetime ACC game. And as I'm watching the Wolfpack march up and down the field on a then undefeated Georgia Tech team at Carter Finley, I said to myself, great, we got to deal with this. And this is what I feel about this game. Let's go back to the last two victories at Hard Rock. For 28 minutes against Stanford and Syracuse, who I think we all would agree are probably two of the worst P4 teams in 2025.
Yep.
We basically scored 7 points offensively, right? Last week, Keontae Scott, he made it 14-0. But really, we only scored 14 points combined in the first half offensively in our last two home games. This is a game I'm going to establish points. That is the mantra. Establish points. This is a game, I believe, that Mario Cristobal and the staff, they have to say to themselves, guys, we can't ball control this early. Let's get ahead. Let's try to score at least 35-38 and let Ruben Bane come downhill with the rest of his cohorts. This is a game we're going to need some tempo and we're going to need some offense early and often.
Steve, I agree with that. You're going to have to score points in this game. My feeling on this game early has kind of been, it's almost the opposite of what you think I would feel. Like, I almost think this is such an obvious game that the team understands how they know how good CJ Bailey is. They're not going to get caught off guard by things. The defense has been, for the most part, locked in, right? It has been a consistent part of the success this year. So the offense, we can have the questions we will continue to have about them. But I think the defense comes to play in this one. And it's not like this NC State defense. Listen, it's solid, but points have been put up on them in the last couple of weeks as well. So we're not.
Yeah, I wouldn't say solid.
It's fine, right? Like, it's not even solid, right? But I'm not gonna disrespect them, D.
That's fair.
Right? I'm not going to.
It could look good against us.
It could look good against us. But my point for saying all this is we're talking so much about their offense. I like our defense to be able to handle them. I like our defense to be able to do their job in this game. And then the offense is going against, okay, I'll say it now, a subpar defense. So to me, I'm looking at the game just a little bit differently, where it's like, I think the team's going to be really get up for this one. And I think the team is not going to get caught off guard the way that maybe these random Friday night games have caught them, right? I think they mentally know what this game means. So,
Peter, this is the one game, the defensive line, they got to get home. And it's a fine line, because one thing about CJ Bailey, very active live legs. He can hit you. They don't do that much +1, but if you allow him to escape the pocket, he's going to be able to do some damage. And his ability to extend plays is real. And Danny, you talked about it yesterday. His release no longer looks like a shot put. They have adjusted that. It looks much more cleaner, much smoother off the trigger point. But your defensive ends are going to have to put landmarks out there and create a picket fence. And that Keontae Scott loss, I don't think there's any minimizing that. He's been one of the 2 or 3 best players, maybe on both sides of the ball. He's had an outstanding year, and the rumors got out that he's not going to be available. I don't know what his status is for the rest of the year. But look, the whole season, people with the staff have been talking and tweeting about create that electric juice, right? We got to create that juice early offensively, or really defensively. But if you want to get the crowd involved and really accentuate the home field advantage, which Miami has for certain big games at Hard Rock, that's not even a question, right? Well, here's how you do it. And I was talking to or texting with Lamar Thomas, one of our all-time great receivers, going back and forth a couple of days ago. And he said, I hated those trick plays that we had to use against Syracuse. Because his thing was, why are we having to go to that? He goes, but Steve, I was on the sideline, and as soon as we did it, I saw how excited our players got. Well, my view is this. Let's go right off the bat. Don't use them as an act of desperation because you got nothing left. Let's create points. And I'm going to say this, and I know I go ad nauseum on this. When you are a defensive player and you immediately get a 2-possession lead and you start to begin the minimization of the other team's ability or willingness to run the ball, when you have a Ruben Bane and an Akeem Messidor, you want them to play without really much of a run game impacting things at that moment in time. Let's see if Miami by halftime has at least 17 points this Saturday.
And I'm expecting the defense to play, but can you avoid that first scripted drive, just like what we saw against Louisville, right? And what we've seen years past, right? So can you avoid that? And whether the offense scores first drive or not, I agree with you, Steve. You want to see them have some excitement there in that first drive.
Mo Hussein, appreciate you always getting that rock pack, pumping everybody up. Steve, the running game, you mentioned it, still hasn't gotten out of the mud, really, even with new blood getting in there, Pringle showing some nice flashes. You still don't see a statistically dominant running performance, really, the last since, USF, I guess. It's been a while. So there were plenty of runs outside this last game. You saw both for Lyle and for Pringle being more effective on those runs. But what do you see as the key to getting this running game going? How important is it to get this running game really making chunk plays down the stretch of these 3 games?
Well, Gerard Pringle certainly has given them a lift. There's some real juice. He created some plays that probably were not available earlier in the year. People forget. People say, why was he not playing earlier? Well, he was injured. Didn't he miss about 3 weeks, guys?
Yeah, the shoulder thing, yeah.
Right. So that impacted him. And I'll give the staff credit. They're not just running the same run plays, guys. I know that's a stereotype that all we do is that rugby handoff inside the A gap. That's really no longer true, at least the last couple of weeks. But if you go back to the first 2 drives, guys, I actually thought we strung together a couple of first downs, and I kept thinking, guys, let's go tempo here. I still think we play at such a slow pace. And I've heard for years, the heat and humidity is our weapon, right? So when we're at home, why are we huddling up and grinding the clock down? My view is this. Why not just go quick tempo, no huddle, and create first downs? And as you say, Danny, put Carson Beck in a quick script where he just reads, reacts, get the ball out, and we go back again. And then I always think later in the ball game is when you want to establish your physicality and pound people as you have a 38-17 lead with about 12 minutes to go. My view is let's get to that 38 points as soon as possible. You can completely dictate the game. This is noticeable. I think the longest run Miami has had this year from a running back off of a traditional handoff. Have we even had a 45, 50-yard run?
Not that I can remember.
I can't recall one, to be honest with you. And if you ask anyone that's really studied football or played quarterback, they will tell you, this is a consensus, the easiest down to throw, early downs. And I know people are going to cringe at this statement. We have to trust Carson Beck for better or worse. Paid a lot of money for him. He's still throwing at 73% percentage completion. That's a high limit. Now, again, he's had some issues. There's been some interceptions. We can all argue about how many of those were really his fault, victims of circumstance, bad luck. But he is a guy that is an experienced quarterback. He still has won a lot of games. The next three, we have to basically, it's just my view, we're not going to be able to push people around and just methodically gain 8 yards right off the clip, right off the bat. You got to be able to create some explosive plays. And generally, your most favorable looks on the back end, in my view, happen on early downs. And it's certainly been the case this year against Miami, in my view.
Steve, and I'll say this on Beck too, based on what I'm hearing. Anyone who thinks that kid does not care, he cares deeply. He is, I mean, people who are worried about, man, his body language is bad. You know what? I think that's something he needs to continue to work on, right? That's something that has carried over a bit from Georgia. But I can tell you he cares. I can tell you behind the scenes, the team believes in him. Like I'm telling you that from what I've heard, there's a very strong belief in him still, Steve. And like he is doing what he has to do within that building right now to keep the troops together, man, even though it hasn't been perfect. So I heard that yesterday, and it gave me some positive belief, man.
One of the early drives.
But he has to play better. Sorry, Steve, as Kyle says, he has to play better. So that's
in one of the first two drives. He threw a crossing route on a third down to JoJo Trader, and you saw the camera pan towards him, and you're like, body language. But can I tell you something? When I watched that play again, Loch Ness Trader didn't exactly give the greatest effort on that play. I know people are going to get upset by that. I know he's from South Florida, but if you're Kevin Beard and you're watching that thing in the eye in the sky, I'd be like, is there anyone else that's going to give a little better effort? Watch that throw again. It was not a bad throw. And JoJo out of his cut, I don't think he exactly exerted himself 100%. And I think that is part of the frustration that Carson Beck is feeling.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things with Beck. First of all, I think the way that we're playing offensively and in the passing game is not as good as we need it to be. Not as bad as people think when you actually look back at the stats. I mean, this is going to be one of our best scoring offenses in the last 20 years, if just as it stands now. Obviously, it is the biggest reason, along with penalties, really, that we're sitting at 2 losses. So I'm not going to say it's been fantastic, but there are scoring 31 points. He's completing a lot of passes. He has a high quarterback rating, all that stuff. So I say that to say, even with him needing to play better and the offense needing to play a lot better, the floor has risen significantly from what we're used to on offense over the last 20 years. So I'll just put that as a first thing. The other thing is, Beck, when you really watch how he plays, he is the kind of guy that if you have really good receivers, he's going to be really good. He's not going to create for receivers. So Cam Ward, I think, can play. He had good receivers last year, not great. Cam Ward can elevate receivers because of the way he plays. Beck is gonna make the plays that are there. And if you have spectacular guys at receiver, he's going to get him the ball. Whereas if you have, depth issues, guys hurt, guys young, guys without timing because they missed time or whatever, it's not going to be as good. He's not going to create extra for those receivers. That's so my take on Beck is,
yeah,
you're getting the best you can out of him in this setup. He needs to play he needs to play better, but it's not as bad as people think.
Danny, I heard you and Amon a couple days ago, and it's something that I've said numerous times. I've posted it on CanesInSight. If you go back to Amon's freshman year, we were, I think, 3 or 4-0. Then we lose that game to Florida State on that block PAT, and we went into the doldrums. We went a whole month, basically, without scoring 21 offensive points. And if you go back, and I've studied it, when Mark Richt insisted on running the 1995 I formation, and I don't want to upset any former fullbacks, Marquez, we love you, but it was a stale offense. It was staler than 3-day-old donuts left out in the cold. We lose the game to Notre Dame. Petey and his father and my friends were taking that long trek back to Chicago.
We were talking about that trip the other day when we were in Dallas, actually.
Wow. Then, and I kept thinking, what are we getting with Mark Richt here? I thought we were getting the fast break Mark Richt. Now, people have to understand, Mark Richt was actually part of a revolutionary offense in football, the fast break at Florida State. The coordinator was Brad Scott. Mark Richt was the quarterback coach. So, story time with Steve Kim. Peter, get the graphic up there.
Yep.
This is story time. How sometimes you do things out of desperation and need, not because you plan it. So people forget Charlie Ward in 1992, his first year as a starter, before he won the Heisman in 93. Bobby Bowden ran the pro-style offense that was run by Brad Johnson, Casey Weldon, Chip Ferguson, Danny McManus. Fullback, tight end, old school football, but still very fun. Charlie Ward just was a little bit constricted by that whole thing. I didn't know this until I watched the documentary, the ACC Network. Did you know he threw 10 interceptions in the first month as a starter?
Wow.
Could you imagine him in today's social media era? What would be said about him over Twitter and Instagram if he did that? So they lose to Miami in wide right 2, 1916. And they're thinking, okay, we got a problem here. So the next week or two, they go to Georgia Tech. They play Bobby Dodd Stadium. Fired up Yellow Jacket team led by Sean Jones, who had led them to their national title in 1990. Florida State was sputtering on offense. They could not move the ball against air. They were down by about 2 scores going into the fourth quarter. And it looked like to me, Charlie Ward may just be a full-time punter now, because that's exactly what he was at the beginning of his career at Florida State. So they're on the headsets, and Brad Scott, Mark Richt, and Bobby Bowden said, what do we do here, boy? Dad, gummit, we can't run. One of those guys said, okay, Bobby, I think we just need to go shotgun, no huddle. They go, what? Because we're running out of possessions. And all of a sudden, bing, 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 and Florida State made this miraculous late rally. And you know what they did? They said, that's Charlie Ward's offense. That's how the fast break was born. And the great thing about the fast break was you did not need a mobile quarterback. So if you go back to that October of 2016, where we kept scoring under 21 points offensively, as Amon pointed out, starting with the Pitt game at home when we put a 50-burger on them, guess what we went to? Fast break. Shotgun, 1 back, 3-4 wide. You let Brad Kaya just kind of operate the offense. And for the rest of the year, the offense was actually much better. We need to find whatever is the fast break for Carson Beck. And to me, that's not just run, it's 3rd and 7.
It's funny. I asked him on about that, trying to kind of coax that answer out of him. And he said, yeah, what changed was that they gave me the ball more.
But that was part of it, though. But Danny, part of that offense that you were running made it easier. And by the way, Amon had a huge game against Pitt. And if, in fact, you go back to the bowl game, we played West Virginia. And I think that's our last bowl victory. Oh, God. The first quarter and a half, we went back to I-formation football. It was maddening to see. And then we put up about 28 points in about 25 minutes of football. We went back to the fast break. I've always said if we run that offense the whole year, In Mark Richt's first year, I think we won 11 or 12 games. Had a lot of talent. And I'll never forget, right after the Pitt game, I get a phone call from Brad Kaya Sr., and he goes, Steve, you called it. Oh, my God, where's this been? And I said, I had no idea. Sometimes coaches get so fixated on their identity, what they think it should be, instead of, in my view, what it should be for a particular offense or defensive unit.
Story time with Steve. And who's presenting this wonderful segment there, Steve?
As always, every Thursday, we want to thank the Cruz family, great people from the 305. And Canes fans, before you head out to Hard Rock Stadium, and what a great year it's been. We had 8 home games. This is the final one. Make sure you go out there and pack it with electric juice. But make sure that your tailgate is loaded up at Jensen Sunset Corners. They have you covered with all the finest wine and spirits. And here's the thing. If you come in rocking your gear on game day, you get 10% all on all non-sale items. 8701 72nd Street, Miami, Florida. That is Jensen Sunset Corners, a Miami tradition.
And listen, if you're trying to work off that hangover on the basketball court, gets your sweat in on a Sunday, you got to be healthy to do that. And you want to be healthy, you want to recover your game. If you're an active guy or an athlete, you probably know how hard it is to deal with those pain, with that injury, not being able to go and perform. Compromising your movement and performance is not an option. Call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Whether it's elite competition with Miami Hurricanes athletics or just everyday movement, the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute is the trusted choice for those who demand excellence. Set an appointment today at uhealthsports.com. All right, a couple super chats that I want to get to here. Alex says, would love to meet you guys Saturday. Go Canes. The Lickin'. We'll be there all the way up until probably like 2:30 before we head over to the game. So check out the Lickin' in Miami Gardens. We'll be promoting that. But Alex,
it's a sad situation, man. Last Lickin' game of the year, D.
I'll probably be there on Sunday. Just eat more.
It's so hard to say goodbye, boys.
The boys to men's playing right when I'm eating that fried broccoli. Clutch, man. Appreciate your support. Yeah, pack the rock. Dan Alden says, I need a BUZZN and a campfire for story time. There you go. What a beautiful lake you got in your avatar right there. Yeah, that nice lake, a nice BUZZN campfire. And then some stories about Charlie Ward back in 2000, or what was Charlie Ward, 1991, and Brad Kaya in 2016.
Charlie Ward, I believe, was a freshman in 1990. People forget he was a really good punter, by the way. He could boot the ball. I used to call him Skinny Reggie Roby. And 91, he backed up Casey Weldon. 92 was really good the last half of the year. And 93, I think we all remember, he won the Heisman Trophy. But going back to the fast break real quickly, guys, in that particular era, there was not a lot of +1 with the quarterback. That was still taboo to have a mobile quarterback, or at least call quarterback runs. But if you go back, so from 92 to about 2000-ish, Florida State ran that offense with quarterbacks that I didn't think were overly athletic. Whether it was Danny Cannell, whether it was Chris Wenke, that was the great thing about that offense. When people say, well, Brad Kaya was not athletic or mobile, I say you're right, but I know one thing he did. He understood pass concepts. And you talk to anyone like an Amon Richards, they will tell you Brad had an advanced football IQ. He would have absolutely had monster numbers if we would have played that thing for all 12, 13 games.
You look at Miller Moss from Louisville, he couldn't run at all. And he was dealing with a pass rush that was much superior to his protection, but he protected himself just by getting rid of it quick strike offense. Obviously some great play calls by Braum. So that, just because you're not mobile doesn't mean you can't protect yourself just with this quick passing game. And that's not Beck's problem. Obviously he's got all day, but I think, and we've talked about this on the show, just sitting there with all the time in the world, that's not really where he's at his best. It's not like Cam Ward, or if you give him time, he'll create a secondary play. I mean, Beck's just as good in the first, couple moments of that play than the end of it with protection. He's a quick operator. Danny,
one thing Coach JB taught me a couple of weeks ago, one of his rules as a quarterback coach and an offensive coordinator, and I've noticed this, he's like, I had a rule. As a quarterback, if you look into the flat, you better get there immediately. And I've noticed that one thing about Beck, he goes into the flat, but he doesn't get there immediately enough. Because once you look back, one of his cardinal sins, JB said, Steve, if I ever saw a quarterback look twice into the flat, I would rip his you-know-what coming back to the sideline because you're ruining the play. Watch games, guys. When a quarterback looks into the flat, if he does not dump it off early,
he's not going to be open.
Yeah, you're basically inviting defenders up. And that's the one thing. Look, Carson did a better job, I thought, of throwing out into the outlet, especially a Sharmar Brown, early on in a play where he allowed him to get north-south. When you hesitate, I'm just telling you, allow the defense to kind of get a look at everything. But Carson Beck, I know everyone wants to blame him or give him a large share of the blame. And I'm not saying he's not blameless in this. I don't think we've helped them schematically or from a play calling system as much as you would think they would. We have 3 games to make this going. And guys, I thought Tuesday night was a great night for us. There is hope. We are still playing meaningful football as of now.
Yeah, by the way, Nick, appreciate your support. You want to shift gears to the playoff? Because that, to me,
Sure.
We talked about it a lot, and it's an interesting topic. I am more focused on, not that it matters what I focus on because I'm not playing, but, I'm more concerned. I lose more sleep about beating NC State than the playoffs. I have more confidence, quite frankly, in us getting into the playoffs as a 3-0 team than us finishing 3-0 in this stretch, just because I've been traumatized too many times by these games. But what did you see in this latest batch of rankings that has you feeling more optimistic?
Well, Saturday night, I'm watching a lot of games, and when J.K. Sagapolatelli threw that laser shot off that whip route to beat Louisville, and then Wake Forest. By the way, Jake Dickert, what a great job he's doing with the Demon Deacons.
Mm-hmm.
And when they pulled the upset, in the back of my mind, I said, this is low-key been a great Saturday for Miami because we needed some ACC anarchy, right? And I know you guys talked about it a couple days ago, Peter. I'm with you. Look, let's just go 3-0. Let's have 3 1-0 weeks. And if whether you get to the playoffs or not, I get it. We're all going to be disappointed if we're left out. If you can have back-to-back double-digit years, you have to give Mario Cristobal credit.
There he is. Steve is he's turning the corner, baby. Let's go.
Look, I'm fair. I'm like the old referee, Joe Cortez. I'm firm, but I'm fair. I can have my critique, but I can also give you praise.
Listen, if they don't go 3-0, that's a whole different tune than what I've been talking about.
But that means that Mario Cristobal in the last 2 seasons, as disappointing as they might be without a playoff berth, has raised the floor. Raising the floor is important.
And stabilized what we are.
Right, and he has stabilized it. So I look at this, and I know it's popular to say that college football has diluted its regular season, which in general has always been the most important, impactful regular season in all of American sports, right? But guys, you look at all these games this year, or this particular week, week 12, from Alabama against Oklahoma, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Pitt, and a lot of ACC games. I'll be watching them very intently because, quite frankly, they have an impact on how Miami is viewed and ranked. I think this is one of the most exciting weeks of regular season college football that I can recall. And as long as Miami takes care of business on their end, I get the sense they will find a way to sneak in.
Agreed.
Yeah, I said on the show with Mike yesterday, the idea that the committee's talking about Miami passing the eye test, which they said yesterday. They said Miami passes the eye test. Okay, well, that's one test passed. I think they don't expect us to win the last 3, which I don't know, a lot of Canes fans don't expect us to win the last 3. We have shown no ability to finish strong in 20 years. So yeah, I think that's baked in. But that does happen, and you end up winning the last, in this case, it would be 4 with the Syracuse game. Now you check that box of finishing strong. You've checked the box of the eye test. You get to the resume. The resume is going to stack up, especially if USF makes the playoffs. There's about 2 playoff teams, most likely. Or Pitt beats Notre Dame, a good Pitt team that's probably ranked pretty high when we play them. At that point, what reason would they have to keep us out? We're going to play better games. We're going to produce better just matchups for TV, both in terms of the evenness of the teams and the brands involved. You'll get the ACC in there, and you'll have a resume that's not only easy to defend keeping in, hard to defend keeping out. and some uncomfortable questions you have to deal with if you keep out a team like Miami. So to me, the committee has no incentive in any way, unless you just say, okay, they hate Miami, which I don't think is the case, to keep us out. It's just about them not trusting us to finish.
Also, SMU is now rolling. Looks like they're going to win, 8-9 games?
Yep.
Louisville will probably win 8-9 games. So it's not like they lost to bad teams. They also lost one possession games. One went into overtime. The other one, Miami had the ball with the chance to take the lead. So it's not like they lost 31-0 here. Let's go back about 12 months or 11 months. I was there in front of the big TV at JB's Touchdown Lounge and Cigar Bar when Ohio State lost their last regular season game to an incredibly mediocre Michigan team at home. They didn't even play in the Big Ten title game. People forget about that. That was Oregon against Penn State. And guess what? At that point, Ryan Day had a for sale sign planted on his front lawn. 8 weeks later, people thought he was Woody Hayes 2.0. These things can change. Like I like to say, there's a lot of ball to be played.
So just real quick in terms of the next three, what's your feeling heading into them? You talked about what you want to see, points early. I think we all can agree.
Yeah.
We need points early. Then we all can agree we probably need to avoid penalties, right? This is just in terms of the two things that have haunted Miami this season, particularly the second half of the season. What else do you want to see? It could be on the defensive end. It could be from a personnel standpoint. What else do you want to see that's going to allow Miami to potentially finish 3-0? Well,
there's going to be a game, I'm convinced of it, that Ruben Bane is going to continue to get home. He's going to have a 3-4 sack game. And it's interesting to hear the scouting reports from the draft gurus about Bane. They're wondering if he's Shamar Stewart 2.0, and I couldn't disagree more. I think he impacts the game in so many ways. But there's going to be a game, hopefully, where he can play from ahead, and instead of almost just pressuring and almost getting there, he's going to actually just get home. I almost feel as though when you look at his sack numbers, it feels like he has almost 15, and you look at it, he really doesn't. But he has the ability to make other people around him better. That is the true measure of greatness in any sport, in my view. So that's going to be one. But Michael Irvin says it the best. And I think Michael Irvin is really a genius when it comes to figuring out the emotion of football, about what makes a player and a team tick. And he said long time ago, hope and emotion will dictate effort. Okay, so in other words, if we don't win on Saturday, if Miami doesn't win on Saturday, they might actually lose the last two. Going into cold environments, they don't want to play. Everyone's packing up. You don't know who's going to say, hey, I'm sitting out here, I'm good. But if they win emphatically on Saturday, and now let's say in the college football rankings, they move up a couple more spots. Hope and effort can be dictated by the energy you have and what you are playing for. I've seen, and we've all seen it, guys. This used to happen under Al Golden. We'd give really good efforts against better Florida State teams. Dalvin Cook would stab us in the heart. And guess what? We couldn't win a game the rest of the year. We've seen it. We've seen it matters. So Saturday to me is the season. And guess what? The way that works, once you win that, knock on wood, then Virginia Tech becomes the season. And then I know Pittsburgh's going to be cold. I've been there that weekend. Our final game as a Big East member was in 2003. I think I've told this story. Guys, it was literally 12 degrees the whole time. It was the most frigid I have ever been. But you know what? Because we were playing for something, which was the last Big East title, our players really were not that impacted after the first drive when Pittsburgh went down and drove. But after that, our players adjusted, and I don't even think they felt the cold until they went off the field. So again, these factors matter because we are dealing with human emotions.
P, what you got? You're out here standing up, chilling.
I'm not chilling. I'm on the show. No, I'm glad to hear Steve's perspective on the 10 wins as well, man, because I think this thing isn't always linear, right? And you just haven't you look at the years after like any sort of success, and you haven't been able to follow it up in the last 20 plus years. So you have not been able to build on any sort of success that you've had.
Petey, we talked about this the day after Louisville at the place where everyone knows our name, Duffy's, right? We're watching all the games. And on one of the screens was Ole Miss against Georgia, right? We were watching that game. I think Ohio State was playing somebody. I think they were playing Wisconsin.
Indiana was playing Michigan State, maybe.
Right. So we're watching all those games. And we were talking about it. Kirby Smart is an all-time great coach, maybe the greatest coach in Georgia history, with all due respect to Vince Dooley. And if you look back at Kirby Smart, who succeeded Mark Richt, I believe his first year was 2016, it took him about 6 or 7 years to get to the mountaintop. Now, they had some excruciating close calls. They would blow a game or two against Alabama, one's in the national title game, then in the SEC title game the next year. Like you said, Peter, these things are not linear. And in between, I remember in 2020, they had a very frustrating year where they dropped a few games and people thought they were going backwards. And guess what? In 2021 and 22, they were the best team in college football and they went back to back. But it's not as if Kirby Smart only took 2-3 years and he's putting a ring on everyone's finger. It took a little bit of time.
There you go. You see it right there. Duffy's Tavern right there on the edge of Coral Gables. Like Steve says, where everybody knows your name. When you walk in, Wayne the Pain, first thing he says, welcome home. This is the spot, the home of the Hurricanes. 60-plus years serving the community, and now, yes, accepting credit cards. Steve's out there. Pete's out there more than he's in his house. It is the spot. We'll be out there tomorrow doing a show.
Pete is the norm of Duffy's. Every time you walk in, Pete!
Pete has no idea what you're referencing, by the way.
What? You haven't heard of Cheers? Anyway.
No.
Pete, what do you know? What do you know about Cheers? You've heard us talk about it. What do you know about Cheers?
I don't know anything. I don't know what that is.
Oh my God. Have you ever heard the theme song? It's iconic.
I mean, if I heard it, maybe if I've heard a jingle, I would know, but I don't, what is it a movie or?
Well, oh my God. You want to go where people know people are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows you're.
We're gonna hit with the copyright now.
Yeah, no, so on tune. We're gonna get a copyright hit. So, Steve, you talk about adjustments a lot, and you talked about some of them on the show. The kind of the more up tempo offense, trying to score early, not leaving the trick plays or whatever in the bag for when we need them. Right, trying to get ahead, play almost like an underdog in certain ways. But what other big adjustments do you want to see? It could be this season. It could be just kind of big picture with this team.
I thought we made progress. And this is, trust me, this is not a backhanded compliment, although it is. I thought it was a milestone that against the Cuse, I don't recall a pre-snap penalty on the offensive line. I don't know if it equates to the lunar landing, but I felt it was a milestone. That we actually did we actually do the clap thing? One of you guys mentioned.
I thought we did. I have to rewatch. I thought we did.
That's a funny story. So Quatrine Hill, very underrated player from the early 2000s, told me a funny story. Remember with the Mark Richt, Malik Rozier offense, we did the clap.
Yeah,
there were whole sections of the stadium at Hard Rock that would mimic the clap with Malik Rozier. It became like a thing. So you would literally be watching the game, and there'd be one section clapping along with Malik Rozier. I gotta ask him about that.
Yeah, I remember that. That was I don't know if that helped or hurt the group clap. Crowd was good, by the way. On Saturday, we had a student section going crazy.
Danny, I don't remember a lot of false starts in that era. Now that I think about it.
No, it's definitely a newer problem. I think really the penalties being like extreme started really with Manny and has continued through Cristobal. That's just been a consistent
the lasting legacy of Manny Diaz at Miami.
Yeah, well, we're worse now, sadly. I mean, we're in the 130s now, which we'd not been under Manny. I think we're like 110 pretty much every year, somewhere in that range. So not going in the right direction, but yes, the last week, an improvement. I mean, you think about the penalties. If you just remove 6 penalties from Louisville and SMU, knowing how close those games are, I mean, those are wins. Even with all the other issues that linger, explosiveness on offense, Beck's turnovers, all the other problems we had in those games. You remove 6 penalties, which is like going from 12 to 6. 6 is still not like super good. That changes the whole game. Those are wins. It's that simple.
I mean, you go back to the Louisville game, one of those pre-snap infractions was on a 3rd and 2 where we're inside the Louisville 10 right before half. It was 14-7. And here's the difference. That 5 yards is so key because the field is compressed. And 3rd and 2, as an offensive coordinator, especially the way today's game is played, you're thinking this is 4-down territory. Now, on 3rd and 7, you're basically saying we got to get the first down here or come within a yard. And I think we threw an incomplete pass. We went in 14-10. These things absolutely matter. And Danny and Pete, it really started this rash of penalties against USF, excuse me, even though we blew them out. And I thought may have played our most complete game that particular week. If I recall correctly, we had about 5 or 6 of those false starts and pre-snap infractions in that particular game. And I kept thinking, all right, it's an anomaly. We'll clean it up. Quite frankly, it really had not gotten cleaned up for the next 6, 7, 8 weeks.
So on the defensive side, I mean, I think, look, we've pretty much settled into being a good defense here, dealing with some injuries. Overall on defense, do you believe this defense is based, this is what we need to play going forward? Like, this is the defense for us. Like, we've had moments where we've had good defenses for a few years, then we've had tremendous drop-offs and everybody firing the defensive coordinator. Like, what have you learned about this defense personnel-wise and schematically this year that has some carryover going forward?
Well, the defensive communication is much better. I think that much is clear. I think a layman like me could see that. Also, on the back end, our defensive back play is miles from where it was last season. I recall right around the 3rd quarter of the Syracuse meltdown at the Dome, I said, we can't stop them. And I thought we had specific players on the back end. I think they knew that they couldn't stop them, and it showed in their play. And they were so tentative to a point that O.J. Frederico had an outstanding freshman year. I thought he lost confidence right in the middle of that game. You could see it. The safety play has been much better. I want to give the Miami staff a lot of credit. In Jacoby Thomas and Keontae Scott, they absolutely hit home runs. Those guys stabilized the back end. Lucas has been as advertised. The young man from Washington State has been really underrated. He's a big, springy athlete with a lot of reach. I like his game a lot. So I'd actually like to see us play more man press. I really do. I think we've got the capability to do so. Coming into Saturday, guys, and when I'm watching this, we have to disrupt North Carolina State's pass game. They have a lot of talent, Danny. And CJ Bailey, I said this a couple weeks ago, I think it was Coach JB, that CJ Bailey might be the best quarterback at NC State since Phillip Rivers. But I forgot about Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
But you know what? So let me amend that a little bit. He's the best guy they've had since Russell Wilson. And guess what? They've actually had an NFL guy or two in between that. Jacoby Brissett has made a living in the National Football League.
Mike Glennon.
Mike Glennon made some money in the National Football League. So it's not like they haven't had quarterbacks. They've had a pretty good quarterback tradition. And CJ Bailey.
I think Devin Leary got drafted too.
Devin Leary.
Yes.
I was going to say that he wasn't bad either.
Right. So it's not like they haven't had quarterback play that's been solid or well above average. And now they get their tight end back, who's a big, strong guy, big, tall guy that can run. And they get Hollywood Smothers brothers back. And Duke Scott had a really big game. And I think both of them average over 6 yards a carry, right? So
yeah, both over 6. One faster, one more powerful, but they're both over 6.
So they have some offensive weapons. And so I'm just kind of looking at our schedule. And keep this in mind. We play CJ Carnes first game. So I kind of throw that one out. USF plays a different style. But outside of USF, I would say that North Carolina State has the best overall offensive package alongside Louisville, because they have some NFL guys like Chris Bell that we have played. So this is a litmus test for Heatherman and his crew.
Yeah, we've not allowed more than 24 points in regulation the entire season. So that number, look, you better be able to score over 24 at home against NC State in this defense. But that'd be a nice number to hit. If you can hold these guys at 24 below, I think you're going to have a great shot to win. Because they just, their defense is, even with our offense sputtering, their defense is like comparable to Syracuse and Stanford. Now, the offense is not. Their defense is, though.
Yeah, I guess the concern is that they probably don't have to do as much in terms of the window dressing stuff that a Louisville had to do, or even an SMU, because I think Kevin Jennings gets the job done for them, but Bailey's got more ability in the tank, right? He can make some more special throws that stretch the defense that you don't. If you're them, you expect them to do what they do in terms of trying to get Miami's linebackers and safeties looking all over the place the way that Louisville did. But I think that they have more in the tank there. Now, like I said, I still think it's a very good matchup for Miami in that sense. It's not, if this was last year's team, this may not be a great matchup for Miami if you have a shootout, because that team could score on anybody except Georgia Tech and Syracuse.
Last year's Miami team against this NC State offense, you're looking at 48-45.
Yeah,
that's the type of game you'd see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing with these guys is they're going to have more time to throw than, for example, Louisville. Louisville was all about that quick passing game, whereas NC State, they got an NFL left tackle in Jacarius Peak. Bailey holds on to the ball. He can create space for himself. He's 6'6". He can move around a little bit. Sometimes it's to their detriment that he holds it too long, but they're not going to have to just out-scheme you with quick passes. He can hold it and still make plays against us. As
Miami Angel Share Society says, we just have to hope that Joey Maggs isn't the head rep. Joey Maganelli. Oh. And I'm now making it Maganelli, not Magallanes. It's Joey Maganelli.
You see that meme, Steve, about this guy throwing like that he's basically the line mover when he's assigned to a game?
I don't think that's a meme, D. I think it was a tweet, a research.
Yeah, I think that's
a bit different than a meme.
I mean, that right there, I just said, I mean, there's an old saying, there are no coincidences in life. That made me think about that. But I'm excited, guys, because didn't it seem like 2 weeks ago the season was over?
Oh, yeah.
In the immediate aftermath of the SMU loss, it felt like, okay, what do we do now? We got 4 games left or 5 games left. Is anyone going to care? When it came over the Twitter timeline, Miami in at 15, I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. We're not completely out of this. And last year, even after the Georgia Tech loss, I said to myself, as long as we win out, because at that point, I think Miami went from number 2 to number 9, if I recall correctly, right? I kept thinking, okay, we have a couple games left here. We win out, we're in. We find ourselves really in the exact same situation. Look, there's going to be upsets. The games that we're not talking about, there's something that's going to happen. Teams break down. These are games played by human beings. Certain teams are going to stop caring. So bounce of the ball can go one way or the other. This thing is far from over. But just, again, Miami has to take care of their business. The goal has to be 3-0 and let it play out.
Yeah, I think Kevin makes a great point here, and you got to this right away early on, which is that they made football fun again for the guys against Syracuse. That was crucial. Yeah. Just those trick plays, the impact on the mood of the team was strong. Now, look, as a trick play against Syracuse in a game you won by 4 touchdowns, going to matter much here on Saturday when you play NC State and you're dealing with NFL caliber skill position talent. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think the key is getting that energy early, like you said, because a fun offense is about execution, is about preparation, personnel scheme, all that stuff, but also it's about relaxing and, not being too tight when you're running some of these plays, because when you're too tight, we've seen it a million times. That's when drops happen. That's when the routes aren't as fluid and natural as they could be. That's when the quarterback's timing's off. And Dawson talks about it all the time, how much and this is not me talking, this is Dawson saying being loose, having fun is so key to an offense's execution just because of your mentality and being even keel. So he himself said what you said, which is that those plays got the energy back and got people feeling good. So that's not just fan speak. Let's see if we can get that going early on, because really the only game that we've played well offensively early that I can think of is really two, FSU and USF.
Yeah.
There's only two I could really think of that we were just rolling early.
Danny, when I watch Ole Miss with Trinidad Chambly, right, and especially when their offense is really going, and they do a lot of bells and whistles. They have the smoke, the guys are jumping, they do the slam dunk thing. I'm not a big fan of it, but one thing I do notice, and I got to give Lane Kiffin a lot of credit, he creates a fun atmosphere, but part of that is scoring points, getting people involved. Look, the kids are allowed to be a little bit selfish, these young men, these players. If I am a skill position player, I want my numbers. I want my touches. I want to make plays. I want to raise my draft stock. And when you get multiple people involved and you allow them to be productive and they start to put together a resume and guys are scoring and guys are feeding off of each other, it becomes a feeding frenzy. Now, if all you're doing is grinding away, trying to win the national championship or time of possession, look at the sideline. There's no life. There is no juice, as they like to say. Lane Kiffin and that offense this year, if you watch their games, once that offense starts hitting big plays, it energizes every single player on that sideline. It's noticeable.
Yeah, and it's something we need. I think the defense, their energy's been pretty consistent. I think Ruben Bane and Messidor really set a nice tone for that defense just because of the way they play every single snap as really the two best players, along with Keontae Scott on the defense. So the defense's energy, I'm not worried about. That's been pretty consistent other than the overtime against SMU. But yeah, like you pointed out, that offense's energy comes and goes. What do you think happens with Lane? As we're getting here to the end of the hour, I want to talk about college football in general because I love talking about this with you. To me, go ahead.
I believe Lane will not. I thought he would stay at Ole Miss. I'm getting some intel. He may not be. And one thing to look out for, if Sarkisian actually goes to the National Football League, I think Texas and Lane Kiffin might be a thing.
I you know what? Someone told me that yesterday, Steve. I didn't know that was where you were going with it. So that, I don't think we're hearing it from the same people. So that could be interesting. And I'll tell you this, the Sarkisian, the leak, and then they brought it back. They brought the statement back. That was all so intentional. Everyone's forgotten about it, right? That thing is that was a real thing when it came out. That came out the way it did for a reason. So there was 100% validity behind that. I can tell you that.
But Dominic Martucci says, Steve, please rile up JB today by telling him Miami's this year's Ohio State, like you kind of hinted earlier.
I wouldn't mind that.
We're going to get back to Lane here, but I got to pull up this comment because it's the best comment I've ever seen from our man, Martin Dubé, live from Botswana. Miami must play with the attitude of the third monkey on Noah's Ark and is starting to drizzle.
I got that tweet yesterday, and I don't know if that was him, but that was a brilliant tweet. There's not a lot of room left. Again, there's only 12 teams allowed in the playoffs, and 11 of them are the P4, and you get one at large. So you're right. There has to look, if Miami cannot play with the sense of urgency now, and Mario cannot motivate these young men to play ball as hard as they have the whole year, what does that say about the program? It's really that simple.
And I think they've been, that's one thing I'll say. I would say it's one thing, and it ends up being a lot of things. So the one thing is never really one thing. But one thing I will say is that when you look at this team's effort level, execution different, right? Being mentally sharp in the penalties and the communication on defense last year, things like that. Obviously, we know that that's gone awry at various times. Coordinator, chemistry, all those things have been issues. I don't think, aside from that first year, that effort has been a huge problem under Cristobal. like it has been under other coaches. There's been other problems, not kneeling on against Georgia Tech. I mean, you can go down the line, but the effort part, tell me if you agree or disagree. I don't think that's been a huge issue for Miami in the last really 3 years.
Yeah, you're right. Energy and execution are two different things, but Mario has another narrative to bust. We all know his record in November. We already lost November 1st. Fine. You know what? You know how you break a habit? Start getting out of it. So we won last week, and we have 3 more games. If Mario ends November post SMU 4-0, we're starting to get out of that habit. We still can have a big picture. You can have short-term goals, but a big picture view. Okay, and these two things are at play here. I think it's a big opportunity. It is a big opportunity for this program and Mario Cristobal to keep moving forward. And I'm going to say this, as critical as I've been of Mario on certain things, I enjoy and I support 95% of the things he does and the way he does them. He's a serious guy. He's committed to the U. He brings us things that other coaches could not bring.
He's a phenomenal fundraiser, which people do not in terms of people say he's a salesman, sometimes in a negative
that's
light.
Part of the job.
Right. But it's said in a negative light. In today's era, if you don't have someone who's willing to do what he does in terms of selling the boosters, you're not going to have a chance to win.
Yeah, I don't like underachieving. I like underachieving when they expect you to win.
Has he done that though? That's not what Vegas has said.
Well,
Vegas, if
you lose 10, you lose to 10-point favorites, or you lose that 10-point favorite plus.
But you were also were you underdogs against Notre Dame at home?
Yeah, that's true.
Right? You beat you win. So we can't. I get it, D. I get it, D.
He's kind of been the opposite of James Franklin, hasn't he?
Which is
because one thing James Franklin did is outside of Michigan and Ohio State, he's won every other game he's supposed to. It was the big ones he couldn't win. Now, we've won the pretty big ones. It's those routine games that you're supposed to stack up where you run into a little bit of an issue.
Listen, Steve, you said let's break a habit. Let's break a habit of not winning 10 games a year.
Oh, no.
Like, that should be what this program is at the floor. And that's what I think it's starting to turn into.
I have a question then. Let's say we end up, again, let's hope it does. This is a doomsday scenario.
If they lose 2 or 3, or if they win 9, then yeah, there's going to be a lot of, I think there's going to be changes that are made. And I don't know that, again, though, it's very hard for me to play that result right now, knowing
right.
You're in this position right now, Steve. You're in this position right now with this in front of you. So for me to say, yeah, they lose this one, it could go downhill. I think that could happen with a lot of programs across college football right now. I don't think that is a Mario culture program building thing. I think that is what college football is with NIL right now. If you are out of the playoff race, the team's not going to play hard. It's just not that is
none of them do.
It's not. You're going to see more. So it's very hard for me to make that snap judgment right now and say what my feeling will be about the direction of the program at that point. But I know we're in this position right now. We were in a position last year too. They didn't get it done. But I like being in this position. I like playing these games, Steve.
Peter,
we haven't played these games in how long?
Well, only 20 years. But anyone can have an off 2 decades. But Peter, to your point, when you love college football and you're passionate about a particular program the way we are, now we all have our priorities, family, our money, our jobs. It is a great feeling knowing when we rest our head on the pillow thinking, yeah, I'm good. I got a coach. I'm good. Because if you're a college football fanatic, when you have a coach you don't like or you're going to get fired, your life is like, wow, what are we going to do here? So it kind of becomes like a part of your life. Mm-hmm. And you see all these other things going on with all these other schools. I like the fact that Mario has brought us stability. He's not a climber. He's not looking for another job. I think the greatest blessing and curse that this program has had is that they've had all-time great and iconic football coaches who have never truly looked at Miami as a destination job, going back to Schnellenberger, to James William Johnson, to even a Dennis Erickson, Butch Davis. He threw away a Hall of Fame career because he wanted to go to Cleveland. That right there changed the course of a lot of history. Because I said this, me and JB argue about this all the time. I said, JB, you love Pete Carroll. I'm going to tell you right now, Butch Davis stays at Miami. There is no Pete Carroll and there is no Nick Saban. Butch Davis should be a first ballot unanimous college football Hall of Famer, but he had to go to Cleveland. He left the dynasty on the table and he didn't want to finish the job. I know for a fact, Mario Cristobal, he wants this to be his last job. You know what? I want this to be his last job too.
Appreciate the support, Zay. Appreciate the support, Muhammad. We'll get back to Lane. I know we're jumping around, but I didn't want to leave that because we talked about Sarkisian going to the NFL and then Lane maybe going to Texas. Why wouldn't Lane go to the NFL? I mean, you see the New York Giants. That's been the most rumored job. You have Jackson Dart as old quarterback there. They got some Malik Neighbors. They got some stuff going on. He seems to fit that market a little bit with the way he likes to talk. Any reason why Lane, who's not a guy who loves recruiting, he's done most of his damage in the portal with Dunlap tires and a lot of money that Ole Miss has to give him players. Like, why wouldn't he need to go to the pros?
That's a great question, but people forget, and I even forget, his first job as a head coach was with the Raiders.
Right.
And I think it was in 2007. Now, college football's changed a lot. It's more like the professional level without a collective bargaining agreement, which creates more anarchy. But I think it's really interesting. You know, another job that might come open, I keep hearing Lincoln Riley and USC. There's actually a lot of, I don't want to say smoke, but there is a belief that Lincoln kind of does not fit in LA and he knows it. So all of these things have like this chain effect or ripple effect. Lane may just feel my style of coaching. Maybe he actually likes it. Maybe he likes this thing. I think Lane has turned into, I don't want to say a statesman, but he's matured a lot. And I think the one thing college football is missing today is tradition. Lane gives you an identity. He does. When I think of college football, I think of Lane. I'd like to see Lane stay. I was upset when Harbaugh left because I thought Harbaugh gave Michigan an identity. Believe it or not, I like Fran Brown. I think he's an amusing guy. I like fiery.
Well,
Fran.
I think we got 3 fans of Fran Brown on this show.
I mean, his job is not to make Miami fans feel good. I hate to tell you guys that. But college football has a lot of unrest. And one thing that JB tells me, and he's shown me proof, a lot of these college coaches, guys that you know of, they have texted JB and says, get us out of here. They hate it. They hate what's going on because at least in the National Football League, guys, and this is the biggest difference. In the National Football League, when a season ends, you kind of know which 12 guys are free agents and their contracts end.
Yep.
In college football, in week 9, any player can just come out and say, hey, I'm taking my red shirt, coach. You're like, what? Or like, I'm sitting out. I'm going to go to the portal. There's no guardrails. You know, so there are coaches at the college level that are making a lot of money. That say, you know, I can make the same amount of money, but at least I know every single week I'm going to have these players. And at the end of the year, I know who I'm going to lose, but it's not complete anarchy. Believe it or not, the college football job, I believe, is actually much harder than the National Football League at this moment.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Recruiting your own players. That's what made, I know just from a college baseball standpoint, that's what made Damari retire. I think that's what made Larinaga retire. It wasn't even getting other guys in the portal or recruiting. It was,
they're not the only ones.
It's recruiting your own players is the problem. Recruiting your own players on one-year deals every year, I think, is a bridge too far for a lot of these coaches.
Danny, it's actually week to week. Because let's say a player was thrown on the depth chart. You didn't think he'd be a factor. Suddenly, through circumstance, this kid puts on a couple of great games. Now people whisper like, hey, kid, what are you getting for NIL? Oh, you're just getting that free gym membership like the rest of your teammates. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Now you get an agent. Now the agent puts out feelers saying, hey, if you save your red shirt, you come here, you're getting $250. All right, and that could be happening in week 5. We're not actually exaggerating this, are we, Pete? This is actually what goes on, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well,
100%.
I like the fact that we know Malachi Tony is going to get paid very well. Now, he's earned it because he's going to get true NIL. I think that is different. But the reality is, and this is a bad reality, one of the reasons many programs do not do a spring game anymore or just will not televise it, they don't want to advertise their players for fear of poaching.
Right. Which is why I think they did the new spring portal.
They did the spring
portal, yeah.
So I kind of look at this thing like, Peter, you're talking about how some of the depth pieces look like they're coming back for next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's key because I was thinking back to the 2001 team. We had a lot of fourth and fifth year players, guys who did not make the NFL, but were excellent football players that were very vital. And one of my favorite players of all time was a guy that didn't play it down in the National Football League, but he was a key contributor and he developed. And I'm not even so sure he would be around in this era by his fifth year at one school. It's James Lewis.
Yeah.
James Lewis was the guy that played next to Ed Reed.
He was always your favorite since you were.
Oh, I love James Lewis. Out of
a young
Piscataway,
player.
New Jersey. He was a good player. Number 23. He was a guy that in today's era, he would either be processed out or he'd be lured by another team. Ed Dump Truck Wilkins, number 72. He was kind of like our sixth offensive lineman. Injury happened.
Another New Jersey guy.
Right, another New Jersey guy. I don't know if these guys exist anymore. Really.
And Steve, I'll say this too. I think a lot of it has to do with what I'm hearing early on. There's going to be guys who transfer, right? But at the end of the day, I think the floor of talent has been raised too. Like a lot of the guys that at least I'm hearing right now early on that we are seeing, right, that are playing out there, some of these young guys who have been getting in the mix, like they have a lot of fans on the staff. I think in years past, there's maybe some young guys that come in, maybe they're underwhelming. They don't show enough that you, like as a coach, you're automatically thinking, man, I'm going to have to bring in multiple portal guys. Maybe it was on me as a coach that I didn't recruit, that, whatever the circumstances were, I think you're getting less duds, so to speak. Yeah. And I just think like the floor of talent is you're getting it to the point where, and then guys are saying, man, like, I'm on the field now. We're a top 10, 15 team here. Like they've experienced I think it's important. They've experienced some of that success now early on. They were a top 10, they were a top 5 team here. They've played in these national primetime games and sustained it, right? They haven't completely fallen apart yet. So I think we have not for years, like things just look bleak for, I think, a lot of guys lower on the depth chart. I think there is hope for them. A lot of these guys who are, getting in the mix, and they've seen what it can be. So I think all of this plays into, again, the program that is being built. I
mean, Danny, who reminds me a lot of his career arc of James Lewis is Dylan Day.
Yeah.
I like Day. I think Day's become a really good special teams player. He's active. He's not afraid to throw his helmet inside of a pile. I think down the line, he could be an upperclassman who starts and is a good, solid ACC ball player. I mean, but if you look at that 2001 roster, there were guys, not everyone playing the National Football League. Robert Williams with a fifth-year H-back. He started, didn't get the ball. Darryl Jones had a short NFL career. He was actually one of our starting receivers that year people forget about. So you need those depth pieces. And, a lot of these kids don't realize, and the money might be worth it. If you're getting life-changing or life-altering money, I get it. But if you're going there solely for playing time, keep this in mind. Statistically, an NFL career by average is less than 4 years. Most people, even at your greatest programs, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas, you go to every single one of those rooms, you could chart this. Most people by the age of 26, 27 actually are not still playing football. I do wonder how many players actually really think about the fact I have to develop a 40-year relationship. And I think it's very difficult to do that if you have 3 schools on your resume.
Steve, you got to get out of here, right? You got your.
I got about 10 more minutes.
Oh, wow. Got you longer today.
I got about 2 minutes, actually. Yeah.
Oh, you got 2 minutes. Okay. Well, first of all, get your plugs in. And then I got one last question that Joel has that I got to give to you. So get your plugs in.
Absolutely. So, guys, we just want to let you know, again, every Thursday, this segment is sponsored by the Cruz family, Jensen Sunset Corners. Last home game of the year. It's over. It goes so fast every year. And before you get to the Hard Rock Stadium, Make sure your tailgate is loaded up with all the wine and spirits that you want and need. And if you come in rocking your gear on game day, all non-sale items are 10% off as long as you get that or you get that IBIS. The address, 8701 72nd Street, a Miami tradition. Thank you to the Cruz family, as always.
And where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter, where I inundate the guys. My timeline's not for everybody. I just want to warn everybody, but it's Steve Kim 323 and ode to East LA and Montebello. And then on Instagram, Steve Orale Kim. I also do the 3 knockdown rule. We took a week off while Mario got stuck in DC. And I'm also on Fearless with Jason Whitlock. And I'm also on with Coach JB of the Coach JB Show.
Last question.
Yeah.
Joe Warren, Johnny Bump City Bumpus, the best boxer to never win a boxing gold medal.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, it was part of the 1980 class that our U.S. team, the decision was made by Jimmy Carter to boycott the Olympics in Moscow. Bump City Bumpus signed with Main Events. He was a very, very slick boxer, great head movement. He was part of that crew of Main Events that he was co-trained by the great George Benton and the one and only Lou Duva. And Bump City Bumpus was on NBC a lot as a child, one of the champions of tomorrow alongside of Bobby Ches, Alex Ramos, and all those guys. Back when boxing was a serious sport. And now we have Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua.
God. Listen, if you're a boxing fan, if you're a Canes fan, if you're a Canes and boxing fan, if you're not following Steve Kim, you're a maniac. Steve, you're the best. Appreciate you.
Talk to you guys later.
Thank you, Steve.
Bagging Up says, not enough Pete today. Pete, what's on your mind? Bagging Up wants his daily fix of the Aries experience.
I got nothing.
You look half clam right now. You look pretty pleased.
I'm chilling.
Pleased
I'm good.
as the plum.
I'm fine. I mean, nothing necessarily on my mind.
It looks like you're like in like Detroit, because the way the light's reflecting on these cars back here, it looks like you're like in a little snowy wonderland instead of
weird
right
weather
there
today.
in the heart.
Weird weather. Is
it really? I haven't been outside. Is it cold?
Not really cold, but it's just strange.
Hopefully not spooky for Saturday, because Saturday we need the good vibes.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I always bring the good vibes.
Dominic's saying Pete's thinking about those 10 wins. I think Pete's thinking about that those yams and those lamb chops. I think that's what Pete's thinking about.
Definitely.
Joel Warren says game face. Pete, you got a big weekend, man. You got Saturday and Sunday.
Sunday night, man. Sunday night will be war in Jacksonville. 8:30 p.m. Weird start time for that one, but definitely would rather watch that than Sunday Night Football. So
yeah, I don't think I've watched Sunday Night Football all year. It's been NFL is cooked right now. NBA. I was getting back believing with the Heat playing well, but I don't know. Half the team misses the game for rest, and then we lose anyways. So, but people, big commitment here. Let's talk about this commitment that we got over last night with Logan Nagel out of northern New Jersey. So this is a guy out of the New York metro area. Let's say northern New Jersey. I know New Jersey people are very sensitive about all these geographics, but he goes to the Paul Catholic, Wayne, New Jersey, same place. You got not the same school, I don't believe, but the same city of Greg Olson, Njoku, that Wayne, New Jersey, northern New Jersey area. Right now, he's playing 4-eye in an odd front, basically doing the dirty work for his high school defense. But I think he has much more ability to get in the backfield. Pete, if you could pull up his senior clips, if you watch some of his highlights here as a senior, he is really, really playing well. 8 sacks, 19 tackles for loss, 54 tackles, 3 forced fumbles. Committed to Pittsburgh, which has had a pretty rich tradition of defensive linemen that are underrated under Narduzzi. This would be the latest one. And he's somebody who reminds me of Matt Walters, former Miami defensive tackle when we won the championship. And motor, technique, underrated.
Technique. I something that's been mentioned to me about him is that he really has an understanding of how to use his hands at this age, at this juncture of his career. D. Yeah,
that's huge. That's huge, and I think a lot of it comes from just work. His coach says this guy's a football junkie, just loves playing football, loves working at football. As you see some of these senior highlights. Again, you look at Miami's trend here. And this guy's had a good more than good high school career, had a good program, 22 sacks, under 62 tackles, but senior year has been another level. And Pete, I mean, you're seeing a trend here with these defensive linemen where they're all like in that 6'2" to 6'5", kind of lankier body type, longer arms, maybe that 270 to 290 range, leaner guys, very quick, very explosive, guys that can get into the backfield, guys that can rush the passer, guys that play extremely hard. There's no motor questions. It just seems like between Nagel, Chukwura, who we talked about earlier this week,
Tyson Bacon,
who's still
Frederick Saintis.
They're all kind of the same family, right?
Well, yes, and look, now that you're already seeing some stuff out there, D, I think we should mention it as well. I don't expect Anthony Kennedy to be in this class at defensive tackle out of Arkansas. There, you really see the body types Miami's going for. You see Kennedy being a 350, 360 plus pound guy right now. They want to get not only more athletic, but yes, ideally you would love ready-made body types. You would love to land a Nolan Wilson here. You would love to land a Tank Jones that, we've seen these guys up person. They are ready to go right now to play like in a college game right now if they needed to be. But I think with all of these guys, you understand they aren't 5 stars, but their body types could project to look like a ready-made guy in a year or two. So you're doing a lot of projection here. But again, like we were just talking about with Steve in terms of like the floor being raised. I think all of these guys are floor raisers for the depth of your defensive line room. And hey, 1 or 2 of them turn out to be like special, and you're going to be in a great spot. And I talk about special meaning like an NFL type of talent, right? To me, that's what, separates these defensive lines. I'm talking about a guy who gets drafted. Hopefully you want top 3-4 round guys because those are the special body types. But 5 stars, you understand, as we always talk about, will be expensive. You hope, and I expect right now to land one of those guys still. But this is a very nice strategy to fill up with guys like this that have that versatility, and the frame is there. So
100% agree with everything you said. There's a clear effort to not have to get these guys in the portal anymore because they're just too expensive. They don't end up playing to their paycheck at that position. I mean, we talk about defensive line. If you go back and look, and I'd say I'll throw offensive line in the mix too. Whereas if you look at the positions where the amount you pay in the portal doesn't match the production you get, I would say offensive and defensive line are going to be at the top of those 2 lists. The offensive line, how many teams just needs a body and they'll just grab somebody? Defensive line, if you're a defensive tackle that can, walk and chew gum at the same time, you're getting a high 6-figure deal. So to get these guys early, to oversign them, one might say, from high school, you're getting more than you might need with the hope of developing them and turning them into really impactful players that you then retain, I think is a smart strategy. You're getting guys with body types. You're getting guys with quickness and athleticism. These are not like, you're not beating Austin P and McNeese State for these guys. Pitt, where Nagel's committed, is a proud tradition of defensive linemen that are developed and identified and become disruptive players. Penn State, where you got Chukwura, you're talking about an elite defensive front 7 recruiting program. He ran a 4.8 laser, Chukwura, I just learned, which is insane for his size. So these are athletic, high upside guys. They're not necessarily lunch pail guys, although their attitude and their motor is high floor. To your point about the high floor, these guys compete hard. You don't have to motivate them. You don't worry about them. And then Heatherman, he's happy to have guys that are this size, that as long as they're athletic and get in the backfield and have length. I think Heatherman's much more concerned with length, explosiveness, motor, ability to get in the backfield than just pure size. You saw Anthony Kennedy just get a Cristobal to Missouri. That's not a surprise. I think that's very much going to happen, where those 2 parties, could part ways. So this defensive line is really shaping up a certain way. And you said it, Pete. The Tank Jones, the Nolan Wilsons, the Bryce Perrier-Wrights. Miami's going to keep recruiting those guys. Shout out to Mohammed Hussein. Pack the rock. Elite recruits want big crowds. No question about that. But I think Logan Nagel fits in exactly with all these other guys. And one more point, big senior years. Miami wants to pay guys that are having big senior years. You don't want to invest and sacrifice other opportunities to get a guy who's on the downswing for whatever reason, whether physical or mental or both. So you want guys that are on the physical and production upswing. Logan Nagel fits that bill. St. Dias fits that bill. Tyson Bacon, even though he had a little injury that took away a chunk of his senior year, he's back now. He was certainly on the upswing. Chukwura, add him to the list. Keyshawn Stansel, again, exactly the same as all these other guys. 6'4", I believe, 280, super athletic, high motor, very productive, loves football. So they want to get a ton of those guys on offense. They want to get a ton, or on defense, I'm sorry. Get a ton of those guys on offense. Jackson Cantwell, Ben Congdon, Cannon Pickett, Joel Irvin, go down the line, and then let those guys compete. And then of that crew in the trenches, hopefully you have trenches that are of the caliber of this season without having to spend too much in the portal on talent that may be mid being paid like it's a, filet mignon with Lomelo's marbling.
Johnny Lagoon says, but we don't need big space eaters like Kennedy. Number one, I don't know what I don't know that the senior tape has looked all that phenomenal. And number two, they just don't like Heatherman. That's not what he's looking for in a scheme. He doesn't really use those sort of players. So, I mean, look, it's something that I personally would like to have some 310 plus guys, but we'll see how many of them there are on the roster this year, because there's not really any this year.
Birdstone, smash that like button. Appreciate you. Says, even Pete, tell your boy Mike Ryan pull up on Sunday. Homie got a lot to say about somebody claims you don't know. Don't duck, no smoke. Tell him pull up.
Wow.
We'll talk to our guy here. I'll probably be there on Sunday. I had a good time with the Villains last Sunday. Don't take it out of me. Listen, we are
D is the politician. I'll say that about D, man. D is as political as I've ever seen him.
But the truth is, and honestly, this is true for Mike too. I know he was frustrated when he was about some of the stuff, just kind of the questions he deals with and stuff. But I know this applies to you as well. But we want these guys to all succeed. I'm interviewing these guys and getting to know the families. Nobody wants them to succeed more than me. I know Mike's the same way. So we'll get that going. Bagging up more e-money scouting reports. Is Power developing? How's the speed on the bases? Power for sure. He went over the fence earlier this season. Speed on the bases needs to get better. He needs to pick up his knees. Both him and Jay Money, who's playing basketball and football, they're heavy legged. They look like our offense. They got to run. I got a hill by our house now. They just built one here, or they just built a new park in Miami Beach with a hill. So I got to get them on the hill. Get those legs up, man. Get those legs up. John Lagoon said, what happened to Mass kicks ass? I think on the offense more than the defense. The offensive line, you have Joel Irvin, huge. Jackson Cantwell, big body. Cannon Pickett's a big dude. Collington's going to be huge when he fills out. He's 6'7" plus. So I think that offensive line, you're seeing more of that Mass kicks ass type mentality. Defense, I think they want motor, athleticism, length, ability to get in the backfield is really where they're focused on. So that's where that is. But yeah, 1,100 on right now.
You mentioned LaMelo's a moment ago. I didn't take the opportunity because I was looking for something. But of course, LaMelo's meat market. We talked about Sunset Corners earlier with Steve. I know a lot of you guys are going to be tailgating. I gotta throw. This is not my. This is the fake zip code that I've thrown in here before. But that is not. I can promise you that's not my zip code. LaMelo's meat market. If you're local, 9810 South Dixie Highway down US 1. If you're not local, this is your spot to get fresh Wagyu beef delivered to your door. I always say it, but it catches my attention every time. Look at the marbling.
Look at the marbling
on those beautiful steaks right there. You see the variety. You get it all here. If you don't want to splurge on the Wagyu, you get the prime cuts, and of course, hooking you up with that 10% off promo code CIS10. Nationwide shipping available. But if you're going to be tailgating, you got to stock up at LaMelo's.
No doubt. And real quick before we get off of Logan Nagel, the New Jersey pipeline, that's a real thing that they're trying to open up. Pete, I know you have thoughts on this, but Miami is making a conscious effort to get into these big New Jersey schools, these areas. You had a ton of underclassmen from New Jersey, including some 5-star type players, 4-star type players on campus this past weekend. But they really want to get into this area. Look at the defense right now. Mo Toure, a New Jersey guy, Alex Bauman, New Jersey. Those are transfers, but you want to get more of these players from the high school ranks. It's been a productive area for the Miami Hurricanes. And look, if you're looking for a comparison for Logan Nagel, that just at least from where they're from, I mean, Greg Mark, 6'3", 252. I think Nagel's going to end up being more close to that 290 range. So I'm not going to make the comp of as far as, their playing style. Obviously, both taller white guys, so that's natural. I already did the Matt Walters comp, but Greg Mark was from New Jersey as well. Jamal Green on the championship team. Ed Wilkins and James Lewis, both who Canine mentioned, that were on that championship team. Njoku, Greg Olson. I mean, you go down the line. New Jersey's been very, very good to the Miami Hurricanes. Brian McKinney. That's right. That's a pretty obvious one, too. So New Jersey's been a good spot for the Canes. Logan Nagel, just the latest from that New Jersey to Miami pipeline.
For sure. I think, look, it's been historically good to Miami, and no reason to stop as we want this national recruiting approach these days.
No doubt, man. So Pete, real quick before we get out of here, we were talking about the game on Sunday, which is the Miami basketball game against Florida. We're gonna have a lot of time to talk about that, but I know you've been digging into that Florida tape and the college basketball tape, and you think we got a shot here.
I mean, look, I was watching a lot of college ball. What was it? Yesterday morning, I texted you. I think it was. So that was that the day after? What day did Florida and Florida State play? Was that Monday or Tuesday? I think that was Tuesday night. And that Florida team, they have obviously with Boogie Flan and Xavier Lee completely. The guard play is those are two elite talents for college basketball, and they have size across the board. Like that their versatility is elite as well. But I don't know that they're gelling just yet to the level that I would be. We'll see what happens Sunday night, but I think Miami has a chance to compete in that one. I think Florida State, they only lost by 2 points there at the end of the game. It went down to the wire. Florida State competed hard. New coach Luke Lux, guy came over from Sacramento who played there. I was a big fan of that hire. I don't know that the talent is, anywhere near that where they want it just yet, but I think Florida State could make some noise in the ACC, over the next few years. And I just think, again, watching college basketball, Michigan the other day was like 4 of 25, number 6 team in the country from 3. And I'm watching the game, ugly looking shots. Like they don't look like a good shooting team. Wake Forest, another team in the ACC, did not shoot the ball well at all from 3 in that game. And missing open looks too. We got to remember, we want this team to be, of course, a prolific outside shooting team. We understand that it probably won't be, but if they can do just enough to keep teams honest on the perimeter, then the way that they're moving the ball, man, I think they're gonna continue to get some easy looks here moving forward. And I think this team's gonna give Florida a run on Sunday night, man.
Yeah, rebounding will be key. A lot of big boards on the floor.
They're
Who's going to win that battle?
But I like that. I think Miami can match up well. If you're talking about where Miami matches up well against Florida, they have the size. Yeah, and defensively, they should be able to switch a lot of what they're doing, because those big guys also can play on the perimeter too.
Yeah, and our guards are big too. I mean, we don't really have small players. Like, who's the smallest player that plays for us? True Washington, who's a really good defender. Like, we don't really have a lot of.
Yeah, and even Trey Donaldson, who's like 6'3", right? He's 6'2", 6'3". He's strong,
So we just don't have that much. Yeah. Like last year, we had Bethea, we had Blackman, we had Pack when we did have Pack. We had a lot of
Wake
small
looks
guys.
Good, man. It's bagging up. So I like Wake. I told you asked me who the good teams in the ACC were a few weeks ago. I said, watch Wake. To me is a very top flight team.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. We'll see. We thought Miami was really looking good last year in the early part of the season with their offense and the way they were scoring, and it turned south very, very quickly when I think it was the Dayton game that got us off track.
Scuba Steve says, Drake.
Drake.
Scuba Steve says, Pete, you think we go after the Greek guy from Virginia Tech in the offseason? My brother, that guy's a top 10 pick. Have you seen this kid, Neocolis?
No. I'm gonna check him out now.
Dude, oh my gosh, 6'9". I mean, he's a more advanced version of what Timote is right now. I think long term, if Timo could turn into this, because this kid's strong, a bit stronger, similar body type, but really a point forward guy, can handle the ball, create his own shots. You got to go watch. He had a big time game. I forget who they were playing the other night. 32 points. I mean, he's must watch TV. This kid is going to be special.
ACC, man, making a comeback here. Don't throw dirt on it yet. By the way, last game of the season, the whole Miami Hurricanes basketball season, and baseball will be here before you know it. Or you just want to get through winter, get some clothes for your, the holiday season or some gifts. Miami Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com. Promo code INSIGHT20 will get you 20% off your first item. That could be here in the store, right next to the Thesis Hotel in front of the University of Miami. It could be online. Look at the women's gear for the woman in your life, or for yourself, or the ladies that listen. And then for the kids, all you got right here, babies, youth, you name it, they have it at Miami HTS. Insight 20 promo code, get 20% off your first item. All right, Pete, good show today. Fired about this commit, and then we got Duffy's tomorrow, man. So you'll be back home.
Yeah, we'll be out there. Nick Watson's talking about Timo Malovich. Says he's impressed with him so far. 4 for 6 from 3 last game. And I think he's going to continue to get more comfortable. Like I said, the first couple scrimmages, I think a lot of those guys were getting just used to the speed of the game. And you might have a new reacquaintance to the speed of the game when you play at Florida, because it's way different than what they've seen the first few games. So we'll see how the jitters are early. I think the jitters, I think the team will have jitters early, like nervous energy, not because it's, oh, wow, the defending national champs, but because they feel like they can play with this team, and they're going to be geared up, ready to go. I think they're going to have some real adrenaline. So you know how that goes. Sometimes I think we saw this in the Final Four game against UConn, the game that Miami lost. Really kept it as close as anyone did against UConn that entire run. But they just came out and they had so much juice. They were overshooting the ball. I mean, it was, just everything looked a little nervy. So let's see the sort of composure. It's a veteran team. So excited to see them on Sunday night here.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. Timo, I agree, confidence. There's more there, I think, that he can show. Really like driving, kind of attacking the
putting it on the
basketball.
ground. Yeah.
I just think he's not comfortable yet, because it's an adjustment.
Well, and to his and his to defense as well. You got to understand, Miami probably wants him to play a certain role, needs him to play a spot up role right now in some of the lineups that he's coming in as, really the being viewed as the shooting threat there.
No doubt.
So
no doubt. It'll be fun to watch, man. So we'll be there. We'll be at Duffy's tomorrow, the home of the Hurricanes. Pete's home away from home, my home away from home. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So remember to like and subscribe to the show. Go Canes.
Go Canes.